Welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. Our topic is chronic fatigue syndrome and, believe it or not, long COVID, because these two conditions are actually similar in many ways, according to the CDC and my guest, Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, who has been researching and treating chronic fatigue syndrome for over 40 years and is the author of the book From Fatigued to Fantastic. Dr. Teitelbaum, thank you so much for joining us today. Great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Lori, fantastic to be with all of you today because so many of us in the United States are suffering from chronic severe fatigue, whether you just have day-to-day fatigue and need more energy, or whether you're near bedbound, or whether you got it after having COVID. We're going to teach you what our research done over the last 45 years has shown will make that go away and restore your vitality. It's going to be fantastic.
Well, you know, a lot of people have heard the term chronic fatigue syndrome, but really don't know what it is. And it's really sort of been a mystery, not only among the general public, but actually among caregivers and doctors as well. So could you please talk about what some of the symptoms of chronic fatigue syndrome are?
Well, chronic fatigue syndrome and its painful cousin fibromyalgia represent an energy crisis in the body where your body spends more energy than it's able to make, and it trips a circuit breaker, a little almond-sized area called the hypothalamus right behind the forehead. That circuit controls sleep, hormones, and blood pressure pulse. So what that boils down to is you blew a fuse. The way you can tell is if you have the mix of having insomnia despite being exhausted. If you're exhausted all the time, you should sleep day in and day and night. But if you can't get a good night's sleep despite the insomnia, and you have widespread pain and brain fog, you have any 2 or 3 of those that have lasted more than 3 to 6 months, then you have chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia until proven otherwise. And you can trip a circuit breaker in so many ways: situational stress, infection stresses, nutritional stress, not enough sleep. There are as many ways as you can think of to blow a fuse. COVID is just one more thing that trips circuit breakers in about 10% of people who get it.
Yes, well, we've seen so much in the news recently about long COVID, and apparently a lot of people who have had COVID-19, and not necessarily severe cases, but even mild cases of COVID-19, then come down with this long COVID. Can you go over the symptoms of long COVID and really what it is?
So you want to break long COVID into a few different things. For most people, we're talking about those who have persistent fatigue, insomnia, and brain fog, and sometimes a pain after the virus. The virus comes, they're achy, their brain's foggy, they have no energy, and that doesn't change, or it'll get better for 2, 3 weeks and they go off a cliff. There's other things too, like you'll see people who have heart disease, the heart involvement, and they will have the shortness of breath. But again, most of you with shortness of breath, it is not coming from heart or lung involvement in the COVID. It's coming from vagus nerve involvement or from other things. That's beyond the show. But realize if you get a little finger clip pulse oximeter for $25, if it's reading an oxygen level over 96%, then your shortness of breath is not dangerous. Give yourself that peace of mind. So for those with the heart disease, there's a free app we have. It's called Cures, C-U-R-E-S, capital A-C. Look up heart disease. For anybody with heart disease, it'll give you a nutritional recipe for increasing heart energy dramatically. We've had people who were given up for dead who are now hiking and doing their things. It's pretty dramatic and easy. For the lung, if you had shocked lung, know that in most cases of shocked lung, it resolves on its own after 2 years. I will give antioxidants like Curamed, clinical glutathione to help. But again, that often, let God heal that up. He takes care of it beautifully. Don't worry about that. But the fatigue, brain fog, insomnia, this is what we're going to talk about today, and how our research has proven that 90% of people improve with an average 90% increase in quality of life by using what we call the SHINE protocol to restore energy and turn that circuit breaker back on.
Well, this is really fantastic, and I want to talk about your program because so many people who have long COVID right now and also chronic fatigue syndrome, it's very mysterious and vague. And so they go to the doctor and they basically say, I'm tired all the time. I have a little bit of brain fog. And the doctors oftentimes really don't know what to do. But you've researched this and you've developed a program, and it is just really a godsend because it's just a horrible way to go through life tired all the time with brain fog and not being able to feel rested. So can you talk about, what your program entails?
Lori, it's a lot of people walk up to me and say, what's a nice Jewish doctor like you doing in a field like chronic fatigue syndrome? And I got into it the old-fashioned way. I had a nasty viral syndrome back in 1975. It knocked me out of medical school and left me homeless. I was sleeping in parks. I thought my life was done and over. I was in Oklahoma City, or actually up in Tulsa, homeless. And it's as if God put a holistic homeless medical school sign on my park bench. And all these different healers and herbalists and naturopaths all came by. I'd never heard of such things, and taught me what I needed to know to get better. So we've put it together into a protocol we call SHINE, optimizing sleep, hormones, addressing infections, nutritional support, and exercise as able. Not too much exercise, or you will get wiped out and bedridden the next day. So you optimize those key areas, mostly sleep, hormone, infection, nutrition, and you will find at about 3 months, you're going to be 75% improved.
So how can people find out more about this? Do people need an official diagnosis from a doctor of, number one, long COVID or chronic fatigue syndrome? Or are you suggesting just a very healthy way of life that will make your chronic fatigue syndrome or your long COVID better?
It's good to have a doctor, and you're most likely to get help from one who is holistically oriented. You can go to websites like F like Frank, M like Mary.org and find holistic doctors all over the country. But there's so much you can do on your own. We've published our 8th study, or just getting ready to publish our 8th study on effective treatment. So there's a lot that can be done. My book will go through each of the steps in SHINE and how to get rid of all kinds of pain. It'll go through each kind of pain, or just for day-to-day fatigue, it'll help you. But a lot you can do on your own. On my website, vitality101.com, you'll see a step 2. You push that, it will give a quiz that will tell you if you have chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. It's this is all free. And you just go online and do that. It will give you the diagnosis. You don't need any tests or anything for the diagnosis. It'll tell you whether you meet the criteria for it. From there, there are directions for how to follow the SHINE protocol, how to get the sleep you need, whether to address whether you need thyroid or adrenal or reproductive hormone support despite normal tests. Lori, most doctors don't realize what the normal range on a test means. All it means is that you're not in the highest or lowest 2.5% of the population. If you're in the 95% in the middle, then they say you're normal, no matter if you're in half dead in bed. An example a friend of mine, Dr. Oz, likes to use that I gave him is that if you had a normal range for shoe sizes, size 5 to 12 would be the normal range. So if I had a size 5 shoe and I went to the shoe doctor and I'd say the shoe doesn't fit, I can't get my toe in the dang thing, he'd say, it's a size 5, Jacob. There's nothing wrong with your shoe. It's in the normal range. I say, but it doesn't fit. And he started implying I'm crazy. This is what happens to so many of you who know you have thyroid issues, who know you have low adrenal because you get irritable when hungry. And that tells you you're hangry, that's low adrenal. All of these things are very, very treatable unless you go to your standard physician. They're simply not trained in either of these conditions.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating because, so many people do go to the doctor, they get this blood work done, and the doctor says, you're normal, but what they're basically saying is you're in a normal range, but that could be so wide and varied. So what you're saying is you really need to go to maybe a holistic doctor, or at least, in the very least, check the charts on your website to get a more precise reading of where your hormones should be and can adjust accordingly. We're going to take one quick break and be right back with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, and we're talking about chronic fatigue syndrome and long long COVID. Stay tuned.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Welcome back to Healthy Living, and we're continuing our discussion with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, who is an expert in treating fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and now long COVID, because as it turns out, we can use this same treatment, the SHINE program, to treat all 3 of these conditions. So let's talk about the SHINE program, S-H-I-N-E, S being sleep. Can you talk about what we need to do to transform our sleep?
Absolutely, because in our published randomized double-blind placebo-controlled study put together with the help of researchers at the NIH, it's a good solid study, 91% of people improve with an average 90% increase in quality of life. So really worth addressing these. And even if you just have day-to-day fatigue, these tips will give you your life back. So sleep, number 1, make time for sleep. And a lot of us are so hooked into watching the news 24/7 and things like that. Turn that off. Watch as much as you need to stay informed. When it starts feeling bad and leaves you grinding your teeth, I'm going to recommend that's the time to ease down. Take that time for sleep. Things you don't enjoy that you do, things that feel bad, that you're not going to get arrested or homeless if you don't do. Cut out the things in your life that don't feel good. Move it into making sleep time. The average night's sleep, average in the United States until light bulbs were invented 150 years ago, was 9 hours a night. We're now down to 6 3/4. It's a 30% pay cut. Take sleep in one weekend, see how much you sleep without an alarm clock, what leaves you feeling the best. But 9 hours is not unusual. There are herbals for sleep. If you have trouble falling asleep, there's a form of melatonin sustained release called EP120. That's brilliant. I'll take that myself. Using a sleep mask makes a big difference in sleep quality for many people. Even the tiny bit of light from a nightlight can disrupt sleep. So try a sleep mask, see if you sleep deeper. And if you're in too much pain at night, consider an Epsom salts bath with 2 cups of magnesium or Epsom salts in a tub of hot water. Soak for a half hour, cool off after you get out of the bed. You don't want to go straight to bed or you'll sweat, but cool off and read something calming or watch a calming show, and then ease into bed. Your muscles will be so relaxed, and so will you. So simple things you can do for sleep. If that's not enough, there are medications that can be very helpful. But what I find with medications is low doses, low being tiny, tiny, tiny doses of many things, work better than a high dose of one.
So that was S, sleep, and I'm sure you have more tips in your book. Let's move on to H, out of Shine. H stands for hormones. You touched on the thyroid a moment ago, and this is so important to get your hormones balanced. I know personally, I have gone to a holistic doctor, as you suggested, and had my blood work done, and I'm taking a lot of different of these bioidentical hormones, which I would like to know what type of hormones you recommend, but it's really made a huge difference in my life. So can you talk about hormones as a treatment for chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and now long COVID?
And in general, for people who need it, because you had a wise doctor who knew to give bioidentical, to give the same hormones that your body makes. Why most doctors don't do that? It's very easy, because you can't patent something that's bioidentical, and they're pushed to give the synthetic medications that can be patented, even though they're deadly. So two gold stars for your doctor. Always ask for bioidentical hormones. Now, thyroid, that's the body's gas pedal. Depends how much energy, it tells how much energy you're going to make. How do you tell? Tired, achy, weight gain, cold intolerant, constipated, unexplained constipation. Any two of those, and I believe people deserve a trial of desiccated thyroid by prescription, adjusted not to the blood test, but adjusted to what feels best to you. And then when you find that, you do just a free T4 blood test to make sure it's not elevated for safety. And that's it. You treat the person, not the blood test. For the adrenal, that's the stress handler. When we go through stress, our blood sugar starts to plummet. The adrenal hormone comes up, and it meets it and keeps sugar from going too low. That's the job of our adrenal stress hormone. If our stress hormone is weak, blood sugar continues to plummet, and suddenly you're going to get irritable, shaky, and then you're going to go tired and start yawning. But if you find that you get irritable when hungry, it's called hangry. Now, if you're not sure, ask your friends. Notice sometimes they go hide in the closets
right.
Until you eat. Eat something. And if you find that, oh my God, I feel so much better, that attack is gone, that's low adrenal. Don't even need testing for that. Simple adrenal glandulars like licorice tea, a cup in the morning can help. Vitamin B5, a simple thing. I give a supplement called Adrenoplex that contains most of these things. Makes it very easy for people, smooths them right out, much cheaper than a divorce lawyer or marriage counseling. You'll find but let the people in your life know that when I get irritable or moody, don't try to hug me, don't try to console me, because I will claw your eyes out. Just feed me, and that'll be a lifesaver.
I can tell you really know what you're talking about, and all this really rings true. All right, we're going to take another quick break and be right back with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum. We're talking about chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and now long COVID. Stay with us.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians in
Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, Explore effective remedies for sleep apnea and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
And we're continuing our discussion with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, author of From Fatigue to Fantastic. And you've been going over your SHINE program, sleep, hormones, and eye is infection. Can you talk about that?
There are literally dozens of infections, but the critical one is yeast or candida overgrowth. There's no test for it. If you have chronic sinusitis, nasal congestion, postnasal drip, or irritable bowel syndrome, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, and you have the fibromyalgia, I'm going to be treating with a special nose spray to kill the bugs there, and fluconazole, a medication 200 milligrams a day for 6 weeks to clear that mix of symptoms, and that can have a dramatic benefit. But then beyond that, it would take 4 hours to even start on all the other infections.
So infections can really make us tired, and a lot of times we don't realize that we're battling an infection. So SHIN, N stands for nutrition. How important is nutrition when it comes to our energy levels?
It is critical. Number one, start by cutting out sugar and increase salt intake. In this disease, if you decrease salt intake, you'll crash and burn. Salt is your friend. If your blood pressure is going very high, it's a different story. But that salt doesn't affect blood pressure that much. That's a myth. But also, we've recently did 2 studies, one on something called Smart Energy System. It's a mix of 6 nutrients. And what we found is energy went up in the 60% or improved. It went up 60% on average, and stamina went up 81%. Beyond that, eat healthy. Eat what leaves you feeling the best. Eat what works for you. But avoid sugar, increase salt.
And, you know, when you say avoid sugar, we all know we're supposed to do that, but it's so hard to do. I wake up every day and I say, no sugar today, Lori. And then at about 5 o'clock, it doesn't always work out that way. How do you break that sugar habit?
Well, there's a book, The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction. I have a sweet tooth. And you'll see my coffee that I've been sipping. It tastes like an ice cream sundae, but it has no sugar at all in it. I use stevia, and you can have flavored stevias. And about half of people like the taste and half don't. I think it's genetic. But for those of you lucky enough to, also chocolate is a health food. Chocolate is good for you. Just get the sugar-free ones. There's ones by ERND. You can get online. Don't get the little flat things. Get the thicker ones. It's worth the extra 30 calories. Those are like going to make your eyes roll in your head when you take those. So ERND, the good chocolate, Lily's, L-A-L-Y-S. These are all sugar-free chocolates that are to die for. So keep your pleasure.
Okay.
But get rid of, the sodas and fruit juices, which have 3/4 teaspoon of sugar per ounce.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We're going to take one final break and be right back with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum talking about how to relieve chronic fatigue syndrome and other similar conditions. Stay with us.
Too often we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Stay connected with CBN News all day across our platforms.
Welcome back, and we're wrapping up our conversation with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, who is discussing his SHINE program to treat not only fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, but also long COVID, all very similar things. You talked about SHIN and now E, which stands for exercise. Can you talk? You said earlier not too much exercise, though, right?
Well, here's the thing. Because of the energy crisis that these people have, they can't exercise beyond a certain point and then condition. If we push more, we'll condition and we'll make more muscle strength and be able to do more and more. When people with chronic fatigue syndrome push beyond their energy limit, they crash and burn. It's called post-exertional malaise, and they're bedridden for 3 days. Then they get afraid to do anything and they decondition, which is even worse. Those 3-day crashes are nasty, but they don't cause any permanent harm. So it's okay, start with a walking program, see how much you can do. If you push to where you wipe out the next day, rest for 3 days, cut back by 20% and leave it there. After 8 to 10 weeks on the SHINE protocol, your energy production will be skyrocketing. And then you can go ahead and increase walking by about 50 steps every 1 to 3 days, and just get one of those little Fitbits or things that'll tell you. And then there's no upper limit except what your body tells you. But make sure what you do is fun, because otherwise you're human. If it's not fun, you ain't gonna stick with it. Shopping is exercise.
Oh, yeah, you just said my favorite phrase, shopping is exercise. That is so true, especially if you go to the mall or a big store like Walmart. You do a lot of steps. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Once again, your book is called From Fatigued to Fantastic. Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, tell our viewers how people can find out more about you.
I invite you to come to my website, www.end, E, and like Nancy, D, like David, fatigue, FATIGUE.com. A number of things we talked about are there. For information, go to www.vitality101.com, and there'll be a 4-step program that will walk you through how to recover from CFS and fibromyalgia. For those of you with day-to-day fatigue or pain, these things can give you your lives back too. Enjoy.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Teitelbaum, for being here and for your wonderful work over the last 4 decades. You've helped so many people, and I'm sure so many people who watch today's program will be helped as well. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Lori. Thanks to everybody for showing up and listening today. Please share with your friends.
All right. And thanks to you for tuning in to this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson, and we'll see you again next week. Bye now.